Good evening, everyone. We're live on YouTube. Thank you all for dialing in and welcome to this extraordinary meeting of the Cabinet. For the benefit of those watching our proceedings on YouTube this evening, members of the Cabinet are present in the chamber and these members will be voting on proposals. Other members of the Council are also in attendance and participating on Microsoft Teams, and they can take part in any discussions and they can ask questions, but they cannot vote. Can I draw everyone's attention to agenda item 1, which sets out the guidance on how meetings will be conducted, including the ground rules. Before we start, I will confirm attendance of voting members by doing a roll call. So if you can just introduce yourselves when I call your name. As always, I shall start by introducing myself for those who are watching and don't know me. My name is Matt Borson. I am Chair of the Cabinet and Leader of Tunbridge and Morecambe Borough Council. Robin Betts, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, Councillor Robin Betts, Cabinet Member for Housing, Economy and Environment. Thank you.
Apologies from Martin Coffin this evening. Des Kears.
Good evening, everyone. Des Kears, Cabinet Member for Community Services.
Adam Memmott.
Good evening, Councillor Adam Memmott, Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Tunbridge Regeneration. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Taylor.
Good evening, Mike Taylor, Cabinet Member for Planning.
Thank you all. I now ask officers to introduce themselves. I'll start with officers in the chamber. Eleanor.
Good evening, Eleanor Hoyle, Director of Planning, Housing and Environmental Health.
Good evening, everybody. Damien Roberts, Chief Executive.
James.
James Bailey, Head of Planning.
Alison Paris, Principal Democratic Services.
And online we should be joined by Paul Worden.
Yes, Paul Worden, Head of Finance.
Thank you, Paul. And Kelly Sharp.
Yep, Kelly Sharp, Planning Policy Manager.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Right, we'll move on to the agenda proper then. It's a short agenda as it's an extraordinary meeting, but it doesn't make it any less important. So, as I say, item 1 is the guidance on how meetings are going to be conducted. Agenda item 2 is apologies for absence. These have been received from Martin Coffin. Agenda item 3 are declarations of interest. Any declarations of interests? No? Okay. We normally at this point have minutes of the last meeting, but as it's an extraordinary meeting, we deal with the minutes from the previous scheduled meeting at the next scheduled meeting. This brings us now on to agenda item 4. This is a local plan regulation 18 consultation. This was considered in detail last week by the Housing and Planning Scrutiny Select Committee at their meeting on Tuesday, the 21st of October. And the report and the annexes considered are attached at pages 15 to 56. The recommendations from the Scrutiny Select Committee are set out on page 5 of the supplementary paper, which was published yesterday. In that summary, the committee recommends to us that the draft local plan goes out to public consultation starting on the 10th of November and closing on the 2nd of January 2026. Before I invite Mike Taylor as Cabinet Member for Planning to say anything, I don't know, James or Eleanor, whether you wish to say anything at all from an officer perspective or nope. OK. Mike, do you wish to add anything?
Thank you very much. This is the end of 2 years or more of very hard work by everyone in the council, officers and members alike. And I think we've ended up with the best plan draft we can get and the fairest. Everybody hates it equally. So I think that's a result. And all we're really doing tonight is to launch it into the cold, dark night sea of public consultation and see where it goes from there. I would like to table 2 amendments to the recommendations, 2 extra recommendations. And these are just to pick up on getting feedback from infrastructure providers and ensuring we've got the proper transport evidence in place. Item 6 then will be Cabinet grants authority to the Cabinet Member for Infrastructure the right to infrastructure providers to seek responses to the Reg 18 local plan consultation document. And 7 will be Cabinet notes the highways work done to date notes the further work needed between the Reg 18 and Reg 19 consultation, and delegates to the Director of Planning, Housing and Environmental Health, in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Planning and Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Tamworth Regeneration, to review the specification for this work and any additional works so it is adequately responds to community concerns about the highway impacts in order to inform the ongoing assessment of site allocations in the draft local plan. So I propose those two amendments.
Thank you very much, Mike, and I'll come to ask for a second shortly. As always with cabinet meetings, I shall ask if any member who isn't in cabinet wishes to comment on either the recommendations that have come forward, the new ones from Mike, or anything from the Planning Scrutiny Select Committee. Say that, but I don't see any hands online. So given that, I will come to cabinet members. Does anyone wish to speak? And in doing so, I'll also pose the question whether anyone wishes to second the additional two recommendations. Adam.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I would like to second those additional recommendations. In terms of where we are on the local plan, you know, Housing and Planning have recommended to us that we do proceed with that Regulation 18 consultation. You know, I don't think we should be, you know, going against that recommendation. At the same time, I think myself, like many other members, have, you know, concerns and reservations about the, you know, the scale of the task facing us, particularly, you know, the housing numbers we're being asked to plan for, which are, you know, a government invention. They've, you know, told us how we've got to calculate that. And if we don't do it that way, then it's, you know, it's going to be difficult to get this plan anywhere really. So it's a very difficult position, I think, we find ourselves in, but I think what we have to do is put this plan to residents and get their views from it, and you know, that's the best way, I think, to progress things. And then once we've heard from residents, then we can take stock and see where we are and go from there. So I think the two additional recommendations that, you know, myself and Mike have worked on are quite important in addressing a lot of the concerns I think both members of the council have, and also from what we hear from residents. I think we need to be a bit more proactive in terms of engaging infrastructure providers and getting their feedback. And there are, you know, instances that I've come across over the last sort of few months where, you know, the opportunity to secure certain infrastructure has kind of been missed or not done to its full extent in planning applications. And I think it's certainly something we can't have with a local plan. At the very, very least, residents expect, you know, infrastructure to be delivered if development is going to happen, to mitigate those effects. So I think that does that, and you know, I will be writing to those infrastructure providers and really just encouraging them to engage with the process. The second sort of additional recommendation, I think, is important, because with this kind of scale of proposed housing and development as a whole across the borough, I think probably, you know, one of the top concerns residents are going to have is the impact on the road network. You know, in the borough, it's a lot of kind of, you know, country lanes. There's some, you know, major transport networks, but a lot of it is sort of smaller roads. And I think residents and a lot of councillors are very concerned about the impact on road networks. In Tunbridge, you know, the high street is a major thoroughfare, and sometimes it can take, you know, half an hour to get from one end to the other, just because of the sheer quantity of traffic. So I think this is something that we absolutely have to push and scrutinise as much as possible, and the recommendation, I think, gives us that scope to commission additional transport, you know, independent review of it, and if we feel that's necessary, and make sure we've got that right. So yeah, I will be supporting the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. From my perspective, and as the Cabinet Member for Community Services, you won't be surprised that I think it's vitally important that we ask our communities their thoughts on the proposals of the local plan. Like my colleagues, I do share many concerns about the local plan, as do my colleagues in neighbouring wards. But ultimately, if the government are telling us that, you know, this is something we've got to do, then we should at the very least canvass local opinion and do our best to try to prepare a plan to acknowledge residents' opinions and concerns. So I do support at this stage.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, just before coming to recommendations, I hope you don't mind, Cabinet, if I just take this opportunity, given I haven't had an opportunity so far, to just express a couple of views myself. I agree with a lot of what's been said. I think Mike and Adam and Des have all articulated very well the challenges that we're going to face with the local plan. I also think the debate at the Housing and Planning Scrutiny Select Committee was excellent last week in terms of, I referred to this in my remarks at full council last night, there's been a fact-based discussion about what this council can and can't do. And I thought Dennis King chaired that really well, and across the chamber. So thank you to all members who were there that evening. Just if you will indulge me as a ward councillor for a minute, I represent 4 villages: East Peckham, West Peckham, Merryworth, Waterenbury, and we've got a couple of those villages, Merryworth and West Peckham, smaller villages, don't have any allocations within the local plan. We've got Waterenbury, which has got a couple allocations that are generally quite small compared to some other villages. And then you've got East Peckham, which you've got 5 significant sites that have come forward, and it's really difficult for us as members to be able to articulate the views of our residents without asking their opinion. So I think it's really important that we're able to do that, and that's why, having had a unanimous vote last week, and colleagues, your views tonight, I think it's important that we go out for consultation, and Mike and I will be going to many public meetings to encourage people and share details of how we will be able to ensure people have their say. Just on East Peckham specifically, given the concerns there, I think what's really important during this consultation is actually we work with our communities and our communities work with us to articulate that as best as possible. This is not us agreeing to endorse the local plan as is. I'm just as concerned as anyone in East Peckham about the scale and level of development there, but ultimately we know that unless we get the evidence needed to reduce sites, we won't be able to defend that in front of a planning inspector. So, like everyone else in the village, we'll be encouraging our neighbours to respond to the consultation accordingly. Mike, I'll give you the last word before moving on to the recommendations.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to pick up on something you were saying there. Right from the very start, in my discussions with James and Eleanor, we've been very aware that the housing shortage isn't just in the urban areas, it's right across the whole borough. Every village and hamlet needs some housing. But because of the way the planning system works, we can allocate sites that are sustainable on the large settlements, but we can't do that on the small settlement. And that can only be done through the rural exception policy. So much as we'd like to spread some of the load in the smaller villages, because they do need housing, we can't do it. Thank you.
Actually, if there are sites that in the smaller communities that people wish to put forward during Regulation 18, important that they do so. The call for sites exercise is going to be open at the same time. So if there is a site near you that hasn't been considered and it's available for development, put it forward, I think, and I'm sure it'd be received with open arms. James is nodding his head, which doesn't surprise me at all. So given that, colleagues, I won't read out the 2 recommendations that Mike has read out in full. We've got 4 other recommendations. I'll just briefly run through them without going through them word for word. So the first is that the document, it's the local plan consultation document, interim sustainability appraisal and draft active travel strategy be approved for consultation between the 10th of November and 2nd of January. The second grants delegated authority to Eleanor in consultation with Mike to make any minor changes to the local plan document. These are things like typos and grammatical issues that are picked up on by eagle-eyed readers. The third is, again, a delegation to Eleanor in consultation with Mike to make any minor changes to any of the supporting documentation. Again, similar sort of changes. The fourth is that we agree that the other supporting material be produced, including topic papers. And again, that's a delegation to Eleanor in consultation with Mike and myself. And the fifth is to amend the local development scheme. And those of you who don't know what local development scheme is, It is effectively the timetable for the local plan process from here until adoption. Plus the two that Mike referenced earlier, that was proposed by Mike, seconded by Adam. I don't see anyone else wishing to speak. Can we take that vote collectively, Cabinet? That was agreed by all Cabinet members. Thank you. Item 6, urgent items. We don't have any urgent items tonight. There's no need for us to consider any matters in private. So at 7:46, I can close the meeting. Thank you all for coming and dialing in tonight. Thank you.